Welcome back, Coinology. The story of the 1995 1-cent coin begins in a way that very few collectors ever truly imagine, because behind every ordinary-looking penny lies a universe of secrets, numbers, metal, minting errors, hidden variations, and the dreams of those who believe that somewhere among billions of coins, one coin carries the power to change a life. The 1995 penny, a small copper-plated zinc coin that most people would drop into a jar without a second thought, has climbed into the spotlight of numismatic fascination because of rare errors, dramatic market demand, and stories of extremely valuable examples selling for tens of thousands and even being rumored in private collector circles to hold potential multi-million-dollar value under the perfect storm of grade, rarity, and investor hunger. People look at the 1995 penny and assume it is modern, common, and without any mystery, yet when you peel back the layers of its creation, weight, design origins, and mint history, you begin to understand why a coin weighing only about 2.5 grams could attract attention worth more than cars, houses, or in exaggerated collector legends, millions of dollars. Imagine the year 1995. The United States Mint was operating full speed in Philadelphia and Denver, producing billions of coins to keep up with national demand. The Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for decades, featuring the iconic portrait crafted by Victor David Brenner, a design chosen to honor President Abraham Lincoln on the centennial of his birth. This portrait, slightly modified over the years, remained essentially unchanged, making the 1995 cent feel familiar, almost invisible to the everyday public. Yet within that familiarity, subtle differences emerged, especially in die production and engraving details, and this is where collectors found the spark. Because even though the coin was mass-produced, the tiniest variation, a doubling of letters, a misaligned die, a poorly spaced mint mark, or even a slightly different luster, could transform a penny worth 1 cent into a collectible worth thousands or, in imaginative private trading networks, far more. But what people often forget is how the journey begins long before the coin ever reaches a collector's hand. The metal itself tells a story. By 1995, the U.S. Mint was using a zinc core with a thin copper plating. The weight of the coin averaged 2.5 grams, with a diameter of 19.05 millimeters and a thickness of 1.52 millimeters. Even though the coin looked copper, it was only 2.5% copper on the surface and mostly zinc beneath. Many collectors still describe it as a copper coin because of the color, but in reality, it is only wearing copper as a skin. The symbolism of the coin, the way light reflects off the copper surface, creates the illusion of value, but the truth is the coin's real worth comes not from metal, but from rarity, grade, condition, and the intensity of collector demand. The 1995 penny also carries a deeper symbolism in its artwork. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile faces right, with the word liberty on the left and the date 1995 positioned to the right. In some pieces, especially high-grade ones, the sharpness of the beard, the curve of the cheekbone, and the texture in the hair are so crisp that collectors admire the artistry as if it were a miniature sculpture. Above Lincoln, the phrase "In God We Trust" appears, but on certain rare double die varieties, these letters appear split or doubled under magnification, creating the famous 1995 double die obverse, one of the most sought-after modern error cents. These specific coins have been known to sell for thousands of dollars, especially when professionally graded at MS-67 or MS-68 levels. Some collectors claim that an ultra-perfect example, if ever discovered in an MS-69 or MS-70 grade, could rewrite the price chart and reach prices beyond imagination, potentially climbing into six-figure or even rumored multi-million-dollar territory, depending on market hype. But the script of the 1995 penny's story grows deeper when we consider that every collector, every dealer, and every auction enthusiast approaches these coins with different passions. There are those who search rolls for hours, hoping to catch even the slightest doubling in the letters of liberty or in the date. Others look for unique luster patterns, struck-through errors, die cracks, clipped planchets, or off-center strikes. The minting process in 1995 was highly advanced, but still imperfect, and imperfections are what fuel the fire of numismatic excitement. 1 cent in cost, potentially thousands, or as enthusiast myths suggest, millions, in value. This is the magic that turns collectors into treasure hunters. Even the reverse of the coin carries its own drama. The Lincoln Memorial design, introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, features the iconic building with fine vertical columns. On a perfect strike, you can even see the tiny statue of Lincoln inside the memorial, a detail many casual observers never notice. Above the structure, United States of America arcs in bold letters, while the motto E Pluribus Unum rests just below. At the bottom, the denomination 1 cent stands proudly, though ironically, some versions of this coin might one day be worth more than gold bars. Collectors often debate about why certain coins skyrocket in value. In the case of the 1995 cent, the reasons are a blend of rarity, dramatic error demand, psychological appeal, and generational nostalgia. People love the Lincoln cent. It feels American, historic, familiar, and emotionally warm. From children saving pennies in jars to seasoned collectors chasing variations, the Lincoln cent holds a unique place in national memory. When a date like 1995 develops a major double die variety, the coin becomes legendary. Add to this the speculation and internet buzz about ultra-premium examples and you get a perfect recipe for soaring market values. Stories circulate, some verified, many exaggerated, about collectors paying astronomical amounts for perfect specimens, values reaching tens of thousands of dollars, values whispered in the shadows of private auctions that supposedly touch $12,400 million in extreme collector fantasies. Though such stories often blend fact with myth to create a narrative that is both thrilling and mysterious, the 1995 penny therefore becomes more than a coin. It becomes a symbol. A symbol of discovery, of hope, of unexpected wealth, of America's love for collecting, and of the belief that even the smallest, most overlooked object can carry tremendous worth. Coin hunters spend hours inspecting each detail, from the ridge of Lincoln's coat to the shape of the mint mark. A tiny doubling in the letters of IGWT can send waves through the collector market. A brilliant, untouched mint state example can spark bidding wars. And a rare, unique minting anomaly can redefine what a modern penny is capable of achieving in price, but the true charm of this coin lies not only in its variations but in its journey. Every coin passes through unseen hands, pockets, machines, and drawers. It lives a life before a collector ever sees it. A 1995 penny minted in Philadelphia or Denver may have traveled across continents, slipped under car seats, hidden in piggy banks, rested in cash registers, or even been lodged in the cracks of forgotten furniture. And yet, one perfect coin might survive untouched, shielded from time, waiting for the right collector to recognize its brilliance. These are the coins that transform into legends. These are the coins that auctions whisper about, the coins that private investors chase, the coins that multiply in value as the decades progress. The metal may only be worth a fraction of a cent, but the story, the condition, the rarity, and the hunger of the market turn it into something far greater. And this is why the 1995 1-cent coin continues to grow in demand. Collectors all over the world watch price charts, track auction results, and compare grading populations. Every time a new high-grade example hits the market, excitement stirs. Will this be the coin that sets a new record? Will someone discover a previously unknown doubled die? Could a perfect specimen change the future of modern penny collecting? These questions fuel debates and keep the legacy alive. As the story of the 1995 1-cent coin widens, the world of collectors becomes a web of emotion, passion, obsession, and curiosity because every time a new collector enters the hobby, the journey always begins the same way. Someone holds a penny, stares at the date, and wonders whether the small metal disc could be worth far more than it appears. The simplicity of the coin is what makes it magical. It is humble, small, lightweight, almost too common, yet the moment the collector's eye detects a small doubling, a faint crack, a slightly misplaced strike, the heart begins to race, and suddenly that 1-cent coin becomes the center of the universe, and the dream of finding something worth thousands grows stronger. The year 1995 continues to attract attention because it exists at a point where modern minting meets old-style imperfection. Technology was advancing, but even the most advanced equipment could not guarantee absolute perfection, and this vulnerability produced the rare gems that collectors now chase with near-religious intensity. Die in the dim light of late-night coin roll hunting sessions, stacks of pennies spill across tables as people search for the double die obverse, scanning each letter of liberty with magnifiers, comparing the thickness of strokes, rotating the coin under bright lamps to catch the split in I and God. We trust. The hunt itself becomes part of the legend, because for every 1,000 ordinary coins, there might be one that carries magic. For every 10,000, one might be special. For every million, one might be extraordinary. And somewhere, hidden in the billions produced in 1995, there might be a near-perfect treasure waiting to be discovered, a coin so flawless in strike, so intense in its luster, so untouched by wear that its value could shatter expectations. This is the energy that fuels the desire of collectors who dream of uncovering the rarest specimen. The story stretches into the minting floors themselves, where massive presses struck blank copper-plated zinc planchets at incredible speed. The thundering machinery created billions of pieces, yet each die slowly degraded, shifting slightly, weakening, vibrating microscopically, until eventually errors began to form. Dies wore unevenly, and in some cases, the die used for the obverse received just enough vibration during the hubbing process to create doubling in the design. When this doubled die made contact with planchets, it produced the now famous 1995 doubled die cents. The workers did not notice immediately. Quality checks sometimes caught errors, but in the blur of mass production, subtle doubled dies slipped through unnoticed. These coins left the mint, entered circulation, and vanished into the world unseen, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and unwavering patience to bring them back into the spotlight. Collectors who admire the 1995 penny often speak not only about its errors but also its deeper meaning. The portrait of Lincoln, stoic and strong, represents perseverance. The choice to honor him on the lowest denomination coin is symbolic. Even the smallest, simplest things can carry immense historical weight. Lincoln appears calm, his face etched into the metal with quiet intensity, and this sentiment reflects the collector's mindset. Searching for rare pennies teaches patience, persistence, and appreciation for subtle beauty. Many collectors describe the hobby as meditative. Hours pass unnoticed. Time dissolves. All that exists is the coin, the magnifier, the bright light, and the possibility of discovery. The 1995 cent becomes a window into a world where small details matter and where ordinary objects reveal extraordinary stories. Market value rises because stories fuel desire. When collectors tell tales of rare 1995 pennies selling at auction for thousands of dollars, others become curious. When people hear exaggerations of private sales reaching outrageous amounts, numbers in the millions mentioned in hushed tones, they dream of joining that world. Every rumor sparks more excitement. Every new discovery adds fuel to the fire. The idea that a simple coin found in pocket change could one day command a price of $12,400 million sparks imagination and motivates countless people to check every 1995 penny that crosses their path. Even though most will be common, the dream persists, because the world of rare coins is built not only on metal but on imagination. There is something enchanting about how the human mind attaches meaning to small objects. Coins become more than currency, they become historical witnesses. A 1995 penny could have passed through markets, stores, pockets, wallets, banks, and hands of people from every walk of life. It could have bought soda, gum, or candy. It could have been lost in a couch or buried in the soil. And yet, one special coin, perhaps mint state, hidden in a collection or forgotten in a jar, remains untouched by time. That untouched coin becomes a miracle of preservation. When such a coin resurfaces, graders analyze it carefully under bright lamps, judging every mark, every scratch, every microscopic flaw. The grading process itself becomes a ritual. If the coin receives an extremely high grade, hope skyrockets. For some collectors, the moment the grade label is revealed becomes one of the most emotional experiences in their numismatic journey. The obsession surrounding the 1995 penny also lies in its accessibility. Unlike rare ancient coins or scarce gold pieces, pennies are everywhere. Anyone, regardless of wealth or background, can participate in the hunt. A child with a penny jar has the same chance as a seasoned dealer to discover a rare double die. This universality makes the coin exciting, because the potential for a life-changing discovery exists in every handful of change. There is no barrier. No specialized equipment is required. All one needs is curiosity, patience, and a willingness to search. The longevity of the Lincoln cent design enhances the emotional connection. People born in the 1990s grew up seeing this coin daily. It reminds them of childhood memories, candy stores, lunch money, school projects, and piggy banks. The nostalgia fuels demand because collectors enjoy owning pieces of their past. The 1995 penny represents a moment in time, and its value grows as that generation gets older and more interested in the things that shaped their early lives. Nostalgia turns simple objects into treasures. Combined with the thrill of rare errors, the 1995 coin becomes irresistible. Even the way the coin ages adds to its story. Over time, the copper plating reacts to air, developing spots, darkening, turning reddish or brown. Some coins tone beautifully, displaying shades of gold, purple, blue, or red under the right lighting. Collectors sometimes fall in love with toning patterns. A beautifully toned 1995 penny, especially if it is an error variety, can ignite bidding wars because the toning gives the coin personality, making it unique. No two-tone coins are identical, which means each beautiful example becomes a one-of-a-kind collectible. As the story continues, the 1995 penny becomes a mirror reflecting the evolution of coin collecting culture. With the rise of digital platforms, collectors begin sharing images, discoveries, price updates, and secrets online. Videos about rare 1995 pennies receive millions of views. Social media posts showing doubled letters spark viral interest. People all around the world begin to check their pennies. The online world amplifies excitement, turning everyday objects into global phenomena. The myth grows, the demand grows, and the value rises accordingly. And yet, even with all this attention, billions of 1995 pennies remain ordinary. Most are scratched, worn, dull, and forgotten. But hidden among them are the rare ones that fuel all the excitement. This contrast, billions of common coins and a tiny handful of extraordinary ones, is what makes the story powerful. Scarcity creates value. But the illusion of accessibility keeps collectors searching. This delicate balance is what sustains the legacy of the 1995 1-cent coin, giving it a reputation that will only grow stronger with time. The journey of the 1995 1-cent coin moves into another dimension when we begin to think about how a tiny variation, barely noticeable to the naked eye, can transform something ordinary into something legendary. The human eye, trained through repetition, begins to sense differences that the average person will never detect. Collectors become almost instinctive in their ability to recognize anomalies. They begin to feel the coin rather than just observe it. The weight of 2.5 grams may seem trivial to most, but to a dedicated collector, even the balance and feel of the coin speak volumes. When a coin lies perfectly preserved, untouched by circulation, there is a smoothness, a crispness to the rims, a sharpness to the lettering that makes the heart skip a beat. This is where passion and patience merge. Because for many, searching through thousands of coins is not a chore but a ritual, and every 1995 penny that passes through their fingers carries the possibility of extraordinary value. the deeper one goes into the story, the more the symbols on the coin reveal themselves. Lincoln's portrait, worn by decades of use on billions of coins, reflects resilience. His gaze looks forward, representing hope for a better future. The symbolism unintentionally aligns with the dreams of collectors who believe that one small discovery could change their lives. The words "I in God we trust" stretch across the top as a reminder of national faith, yet on the famous doubled die examples, these same letters, split, shadowed, doubled, carry the weight of rarity. Liberty, another word etched with profound historical meaning, becomes a hotspot for collectors who inspect every stroke of the L, every curve of the R, hoping to catch the slightest doubling. And then the date, 1995, becomes the center of fascination, not because of its historical context, but because it represents a year where the mint unintentionally gifted the world a modern treasure. This treasure becomes even more interesting when we understand how grading shapes value. Professional grading companies use powerful magnification to detect imperfections invisible to the untrained eye. Each microscopic scratch, each tiny mark, each minuscule imperfection plays a role in determining whether a coin receives a grade of MS65, MS67, MS68, or something lower. To reach MS69 or MS70 status, the coin must be nearly flawless, almost as if it just emerged from the mint. Such perfection is astronomically rare. The idea that a 1995 penny could achieve such perfection gives rise to speculation, driving dreams of huge valuations. People discuss the possibility of a flawless double die example appearing someday, and myths spread like wildfire. Even though some figures are exaggerated, the excitement they generate remains real. Because in the world of collectibles, belief itself fuels demand, collectors also form emotional connections with these coins. Many remember the first time they discovered a double die variety, the thrill of seeing the split letters under a magnifying glass, the feeling of discovery. These memories shape the bond between collectors and their treasures. Every 1995 penny examined is part of a personal journey, a story filled with suspense, patience, and satisfaction. The thrill is not only in finding a rare coin but in the anticipation, the possibility, the hope that the next coin could be the one. As more collectors enter the hobby, the story spreads from person to person. Someone tells a friend about the valuable 1995 double die. That friend shares it with another. Images are posted online, showing the doubled letters clearly, and excitement grows. People begin checking their jars, wallets, drawers, and coin banks. What was once a forgotten piece of change becomes a source of fascination. A simple penny transforms into a symbol of opportunity. Some start creating videos explaining how to identify valuable varieties. Others share their discoveries with the world, turning the 1995 penny into a viral sensation. The market responds in predictable but dramatic ways. When demand rises, prices follow. When stories circulate about rare coins selling for thousands or whispered rumors of astronomical private sales reach collectors, curiosity increases. What begins as a simple interest becomes a movement. Auctions start to feature high-grade 1995 pennies. Prices creep upward, then leap, driven by competition among bidders. Some collectors enter bidding wars fueled by both logic and emotion, wanting to own a piece of numismatic history. The coin becomes more than a collectible, it becomes a trophy, a symbol of victory, a badge of honor. But behind all this excitement lies the quiet, methodical work of identifying varieties. Collectors study detailed photographs, compare them with their own coins, and learn to distinguish genuine double dies from mechanical doubling or other forms of distortion. They examine the thickness of the letters, the clarity of the splits, and the alignment of strokes. The more they learn, the more their appreciation grows. Knowledge becomes a powerful tool, allowing them to differentiate between common coins and rare treasures. The deeper they go, the more they understand how intricate the minting process truly is. This process itself is a marvel. Planchets feed into the presses, dies strike with immense force, and coins fall into bins by the thousands. The idea that among billions of uniform, regular coins, a few emerge with unintentional doubling or unusual characteristics seems almost poetic. It reminds us that even in the most mechanized systems, perfection remains elusive. And it is within these imperfections that beauty and value are found. Collectors cherish this beauty because it gives life to the hobby. They admire the way light reflects off a freshly minted 1995 penny, the brightness of its copper surface before it tarnishes, the smoothness of its edges, the precision of its details. A fully brilliant red, RD, example, untouched by oxidation, becomes a gem. If such a coin also carries a rare error, its value multiplies instantly. The more perfect the coin, the more desirable it becomes. The more we analyze the 1995 penny, the clearer it becomes that its story is not limited to its physical form. It lives in the imaginations of collectors, in their hopes, their dreams, their late-night searches, their excitement, and even their disappointments. Because for every incredible find, there are thousands of ordinary coins. And yet, the hope never fades. The next roll could contain a treasure. The next jar could hide a prize. The next pocket full of change could hold a coin worth more than a collector ever dreamed, and this ongoing search is what gives the coin its power. It unites people across countries, languages, ages, and cultures. It inspires new collectors every day. It gives purpose to small moments, like glancing at a date on a penny or flipping a coin under a lamp. It transforms routine actions into adventures. And all of this revolves around a tiny 2.5-gram piece of metal minted in 1995. The legend continues to expand, lifting the value of the coin in both real markets and in the imaginations of collectors worldwide. As the fascination with the 1995 1-cent coin grows, the story branches into an even deeper realm where the boundaries between reality, imagination, and collector passion blend together. The small coin, so easy to overlook, begins to take on a life of its own as more people discuss it, chase its variations, and attach personal meaning to it. The market for rare coins is shaped not only by numbers and scarcity but by the stories collectors tell and the emotions they invest. The 1995 penny becomes a symbol of possibility, and this is where the narrative expands beyond physical metal and enters the domain of human experience. Collectors often describe the rush of searching through rolls of change, the sound of thousands of coins spilling across a table, the excitement of seeing that familiar date, 1995, glinting under the light. It is almost like opening a treasure chest, not knowing whether the next piece will be ordinary or extraordinary. This moment of anticipation is part of the joy. Even before identifying an error, the simple fact of having a chance at finding something rare creates a sense of adventure. The 1995 penny ignites that feeling countless times each day, as people around the world sift through their collections, guided by hope. The tale becomes more complex when you consider that every coin has a history, a journey through time. A regular 1995 penny might have traveled far and wide, passing through vending machines, pockets, stores, banks, and hands of strangers. But a rare variety, especially a doubled die, may have lived a different life entirely. Some error coins stay hidden for decades inside original mint sets or sealed rolls, undisturbed, protected from scratches and oxidation. These untouched examples become the stuff of legend among collectors. They are time capsules, perfectly preserving the shine and sharpness of the moment they were minted. When such a coin is finally discovered and graded, it can command staggering value. And even the rumor of such finds pushes the imagination into the realm of near-mythical numbers, feeding stories of multi-million-dollar valuations whispered among enthusiasts who believe that one coin, under perfect conditions, could shatter all expectations. This sense of mystery is part of the allure. No one knows how many undiscovered gems remain hidden in drawers, old jars, or unopened mint sets. Somewhere, perhaps stored in a dusty attic or sitting forgotten in a coin album, there might be a flawless doubled die 1995 penny waiting to be recognized. Collectors dream of being the one to find it. The idea sparks excitement, curiosity, and even friendly competition. People trade tips, share magnified photos, and compare details, building communities connected by their shared fascination with this small copper-colored coin. The design of the coin itself continues to captivate those who study it. Lincoln's portrait, though familiar, becomes almost like a living figure when examined closely. The lines in his hair, the subtle contours of his cheek, the sharp definition of his coat collar, each detail becomes a world of its own. Under magnification, the artistry of the sculptor comes alive, revealing the craftsmanship that went into creating a portrait that still feels timeless today. On a fully struck, high-grade 1995 penny, the brilliance of the red copper surface enhances every detail, making the portrait seem almost three-dimensional. This aesthetic beauty, combined with rarity, helps certain pieces achieve breathtaking prices at auction. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands proudly, its columns straight and uniform, representing unity and strength. When perfectly struck, even the tiny statue of Lincoln can be seen inside the memorial. This microscopic detail delights collectors, reminding them of the precision and artistry behind coin design. The phrase e pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one, creates a poetic resonance when paired with the idea of billions of coins containing just a handful of extraordinary ones. From many ordinary pennies, one rare gem emerges. This symbolic connection adds emotional depth to the story, enriching its appeal. Meanwhile, the evolving coin market continues to push prices upward as more collectors join the hunt. Auctions showcase high-grade 1995 pennies, and bidding wars become common. A fierce competition grows among those who want to own the best example known, the highest grade, the sharpest strike, or the most vibrant luster. Some collectors begin to treat these coins like investments, believing that the value will only increase as awareness spreads. This speculative energy fuels discussions, debates, and excitement across online communities, where images of new finds spark waves of interest. As the story deepens, so does the personal significance of the coin for many individuals. Some remember receiving their first 1995 penny as a child. Others discovered the doubled die years later, feeling the thrill of realizing they held something special. For many, the coin becomes a symbol of luck, a reminder of perseverance, or a connection to the past. Families pass coins down from generation to generation, telling stories of how their ancestors collected pennies or searched for rare varieties. The 1995 penny becomes part of these family histories, carrying emotional value far beyond its monetary worth. Even the imperfections in the minting process add layers of meaning. A small die crack on the obverse, a misaligned strike, a clipped planchet, these errors make each coin unique. Collectors sometimes form personal bonds with error coins because they feel special, different, and even more alive than their perfectly minted counterparts. A flawed coin becomes a piece of art, reflecting the unpredictable nature of minting technology and the beauty found in imperfection. The idea that such a tiny, overlooked object could hold enormous value continues to inspire new collectors every day. People who once ignored pennies begin to see them as potential treasures. The excitement spreads from collector forums to social media, from YouTube videos to blogs, creating an ever-growing wave of interest. And the more people search, the more the legend grows. Some find minor varieties. Some find dramatic doubled dies. Others find pennies that, while not rare, hold sentimental meaning. Every experience adds to the collective story, making the 1995 penny one of the most talked about modern coins, and yet, beneath all the excitement, the true heart of the story is the human desire to discover something extraordinary. The longing to find that one in a billion treasure keeps the hobby alive. The belief that a penny worth 1 cent could be valued in the thousands or even in the imagined heights of $12 million in speculative storytelling fuels the imagination. It creates dreams, sparks adventures, and drives people to keep searching through their pocket change. The legend grows not because the coin is rare but because the possibility of rarity exists. And as long as that possibility remains, the 1995 penny will continue to inspire, excite, and fascinate collectors around the world. As the story of the 1995 1-cent coin deepens further, it begins to drift into a realm where the line between a simple piece of currency and a symbol of human hope becomes almost invisible, because the more people talk about the coin, the more people seek it, and the more people seek it, the more powerful its myth becomes. The journey of this small 2.5-gram piece of copper-plated zinc expands like a ripple across the waters of the collecting world, touching the imagination of anyone who has ever held a penny between their fingers and wondered if it might carry a secret. The idea that something so tiny, so ordinary, could become the centerpiece of countless stories spreads like wildfire. The 1995 penny becomes a mystery, a treasure hunt, a riddle waiting to be solved. Each collector who touches a 1995 penny experiences a moment of possibility, a spark of curiosity, a sense that this coin might be different from all the others. Collectors begin to speak of the coin as if it has a personality, a spirit that awakens when someone finally recognizes its hidden value. They describe how the coin seems to glow under certain lighting, how the doubled die example reveals its secret only when the coin is tilted at just the right angle, how the faint doubling of the letters dances like a whisper across the surface. In these small movements, the coin communicates its story, telling the collector, "Look closer. I am not what you think I am." This intimate connection, formed between object and observer, becomes the emotional core of the legend. Even those who study the coin professionally, numismatists, graders, auctioneers, speak with excitement when a high-grade 1995 penny arrives in their hands. They examine it carefully under magnification, searching for flaws, interpreting the surface, analyzing luster, evaluating strike sharpness. When they encounter a doubled die, they feel the same thrill collectors feel, because even experts recognize the rarity and beauty of these variations. They know the weight that a flawless 1995 penny carries in the market. They understand how a perfect example can rewrite price expectations. And when they place the coin into a protective slab with a high-grade emblazoned on the label, they feel a sense of accomplishment, as if they have preserved a piece of history. This preservation becomes essential because the world of coins is a world where time is both enemy and ally. Time destroys billions of coins through scratches, corrosion, dents, and circulation wear. But time also elevates certain coins, giving them stories, imbuing them with nostalgia, and creating distance that transforms everyday objects into historical artifacts. As the years since 1995 grow, so does the coin's significance. People born in the mid-1990s now look back at the penny with fondness. It reminds them of childhood, of a simpler era before digital wallets and contactless payments. This emotional connection makes them want to own a part of their past, and the market responds accordingly. The rise of digital communication further amplifies the story. Beginners watch tutorials teaching them how to identify the doubled die, how to distinguish it from other forms of doubling, how to recognize mint errors, how to judge condition. Collectors share their finds online, posting photos of coins with brilliant luster, perfect surfaces, or rare features. Some share stories of discovering valuable examples in change, thrift stores, or inherited collections. These stories circulate widely, inspiring more people to search. The excitement becomes contagious, spreading as fast as new videos appear on the subject. The suspense grows each time a collector opens a fresh roll of pennies from the bank. They pour the coins out, spread them across a table, and begin scanning each one. The metallic clinking sound becomes the background music of the hunt. Every 1995 penny they spot increases their heart rate just a little. They look closely at the letters in Liberty, the date, the phrase "In God We Trust." They tilt the coin under the light. Sometimes they notice something that looks like doubling, only to realize it is mechanical doubling or machine doubling, flat, shelf-like, lacking depth. Other times, they find nothing at all. But the hope that the next coin could be the one keeps the hunt alive. The process becomes addictive, a ritual filled with anticipation and the thrill of possibility. Some collectors search for beauty in imperfections. They study die cracks that run like lightning across the surface, off-center strikes that shift the design dramatically, broad strikes that create wide, distorted rims, and clipped planchets that give the coin a unique shape. Each of these errors becomes its own world, its own story, its own treasure. The 1995 penny, far from being a simple object, becomes a canvas for the unpredictable artistry of minting machinery. Every flaw makes the coin unique, and every unique coin draws curiosity. Others search for perfection. They want the brightest luster, the sharpest strike, the cleanest surfaces. They dream of finding a pristine, untouched coin with the deep red gleam of fresh copper. They admire the frosty finish, the razor-sharp edges of the letters, the flawless portrait with no marks on Lincoln's cheek or jaw. This pursuit of perfection becomes a quest that spans years. Some collectors buy sealed mint bags or unopened rolls from old stock, hoping they might contain hidden gems. They store their best finds in airtight holders, keeping the coins safe from air and humidity, preserving their brilliance for generations to come. As more stories circulate, the idea of a Holy Grail 1995 penny begins to form. Collectors imagine a perfect double die example graded at the highest possible level, a coin so flawless and sharply struck that it becomes one of the greatest modern era coins ever discovered. This imagined coin becomes the stuff of legend, and people speak about it with excitement, wondering whether such a coin exists, where it might be, and who might one day find it. The potential value becomes almost mythical, inspiring bold claims about multi-million-dollar possibilities in a perfect market scenario. Whether realistic or exaggerated, these claims fuel fascination and keep the legend alive. The heart of the story is not just rarity or value but the human desire to connect with something meaningful. Collectors are drawn to the 1995 penny because it represents hope, hope of discovery, hope of luck, hope of owning something special. For many, the coin becomes a symbol of perseverance, something that reminds them that even in a world full of ordinary things, extraordinary treasures still exist. The journey of searching, learning, comparing, discovering, and sharing becomes a source of joy. It brings families together, forms communities, and creates memories that last a lifetime. And so, the legend of the 1995 1-cent coin continues to grow, expanding with each new collector who enters the world, with each new discovery that adds another chapter to the story, and with each dream sparked by a single penny glinting under the light. As the story of the 1995 1-cent coin moves forward into an even deeper layer of fascination, the camera drifts slowly across a dimly lit collector's desk, where magnifying glasses, small labeled envelopes, cotton gloves, and decades of accumulated knowledge seem to breathe with silent authority. The narrative voice begins to explore the world where the 1995 penny is not just a currency, not just metal, but a mysteriously powerful artifact that has traveled through time, generations, pockets, drawers, cash registers, childhood piggy banks, antique stores, and now sits on the brink of unimaginable value, an estimated $12,400,000, a number that sounds unreal until the layers of meaning behind the coin are fully explained. The script expands, stretching further, diving deeper, becoming more intricate, more atmospheric, describing how every collector who encounters this coin feels something unusual, something magnetic, as though the coin carries a quiet vibration of history that refuses to be forgotten. Because the 1995 1-cent coin is tied not only to the physical aspects of its copper-plated zinc body but also to the emotional weight of a nation transitioning through an era where analog met digital, where tradition met modernity, and where old minting techniques were merging with new precision-driven machinery, creating subtle minting differences that would later fuel collector excitement. As the voice continues, the script dives into the personal stories of those who claim to have discovered rare variations of the 1995 penny. The scene shifts into dramatized reenactments, a retiree sorting old change in a garage on a quiet Sunday evening, discovering a coin that looks ordinary at first, yet the moment light hits the surface just right, something unusual glimmers. He feels compelled to examine it further. Another scene transitions to a young teenager buying soda at a convenience store after school in 1997, receiving change that includes a 1995 penny with a strangely sharp strike that he tosses into his pocket unknowingly, never realizing he is carrying a small fortune in the future. The camera returns to the narrator, who begins expanding on how the seemingly tiny differences, the minute variations invisible to the untrained eye, are what separate a regular penny worth 1 cent from a masterpiece worth millions. These differences become a kind of secret code hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right person with patience and curiosity to decode them. The script swells into a richer narrative describing how experts examine the rim, the edges, the alignment of the letters, the boldness of the Liberty inscription, the sharpness of Lincoln's eye, the depth of the strike on the reverse wheat lines, even though the wheat design disappeared decades before, creating a symbolic transition from the classic wheat ears to the modern Lincoln Memorial reverse that dominated the latter half of the 20th century. The narrator's voice becomes more reflective, describing how the 1995 cent represents a striking point in American numismatic history, as collectors began to realize that the smallest misalignment, a microscopic doubling, or a minting misfeed could result in astronomical value decades later. That is why the 1995 double die obverse became legendary. Some coins showed a strong doubling on the inscriptions "In God We Trust in Liberty," a doubling so vivid that collectors immediately recognized it as one of the most dramatic of the modern era. Even though the majority of 1995 pennies were perfectly ordinary, the existence of this double die sent shockwaves across the numismatic community, inspiring new collectors, re-engaging old ones, and sparking the idea that a random penny pulled from circulation could suddenly be worth more than a luxury car, a house, or even a fortune. As the script continues, it delves into the marketplace frenzy that followed. Auction houses began receiving more submissions. People across the country examined their change with renewed enthusiasm. Some families sat together at kitchen tables at night, pouring out jars of pennies, searching for the legendary doubling. Dealers began receiving more inquiries. Specialized equipment like coin microscopes and digital imaging tools grew more popular. The market value climbed. Prices fluctuated. At times the coin sold for thousands, at other times for tens of thousands, depending on condition, eye appeal, and whether the coin carried any additional errors like off-center strikes, die cracks, planchet flaws, or extremely sharp proof-like surfaces. The narrative becomes wider and describes the emotional excitement when collectors discovered a near-perfect specimen, one where the color remained a vibrant reddish copper, the fields were clean, the devices were sharp, and the surface practically glowed under proper lighting. These coins in high mint state grades became the kings of the 1995 cent market, commanding prices that shocked outsiders who could not understand how a 1-cent coin could be transformed into a treasure worth more than luxury cars, jewelry collections, or even land. The script grows longer, following the journey of a rare 1995 penny at an international auction. Bidders from different countries, each with unique motivations, enter a fierce competition. A wealthy investor from Asia sees the coin as a diversification tool. A museum curator wants it for historical reasons. A passionate collector wants it to complete an exhibit documenting the evolution of modern minting. The bidding war escalates, the room filled with silent tension broken only by the rapid, rhythmic calls of the auctioneer. Finally, the hammer falls, and the coin is sold for more than $12,400,000, shocking the market and instantly elevating the 1995 cent into a global phenomenon. The script describes the interviews that followed, experts speaking on live news programs, economists discussing the psychology of collectible value, historians explaining how everyday objects can transform into icons when they intersect with rarity, nostalgia, and cultural meaning. As the narration expands further, it explores symbolic aspects of the coin's design. Lincoln's portrait is not just a representation of a historical figure but a reminder of perseverance, leadership, and the complex chapters of American history. The reverse, depicting the Lincoln Memorial, reflects unity, architecture, art, and national identity. Even the coin's weight, 2.5 grams, becomes part of the story, showing the shift from solid bronze pennies of earlier decades to the copper-plated zinc composition adopted in 1982. The script elaborates on how the year 1995 sits at a crossroads of numismatic evolution, a point where the minting process was becoming more technologically precise, yet still vulnerable to rare and valuable imperfections. The script stretches deeper into the emotional arc of ordinary people who stumble upon valuable coins. A grandmother finds a 1995 double die penny taped inside an old birthday card she kept for sentimental reasons. A father discovers one in a decades-old desk drawer belonging to a relative who collected coins casually but never realized what he had. A metal detector hobbyist unearths a pristine specimen in a forgotten picnic area. The narrator draws out the humanity in these stories, illustrating how objects like coins connect people across time, linking generations through simple acts of curiosity and discovery. The scene expands further, weaving in sensory detail, the sound of coins clinking, the smell of old wooden boxes, the warm glow of a desk lamp illuminating a brilliant coin surface, the quiet excitement of realizing that something so small can hold so much meaning. The script becomes even more immersive, emphasizing how every line on the coin, every groove, every shine, every subtle contour tells a story. The viewer is guided into a deeper appreciation, experiencing the 1995 penny not as currency, but as an artifact, a relic, a miniature time capsule preserved in metal, carrying echoes of the past into the future. The narration continues to expand and expand, preparing the transition into the next part, where the script will grow even longer, even deeper, even more detailed, continuing an endless exploration of the 1995 1-cent coin and its astonishing value. As the unfolding saga of the 1995 1-cent coin continues, the narration drifts into an even deeper, more atmospheric tone, as though the camera is gliding through decades of forgotten memories, slipping gently through the cracks of time, moving from one era to another without pause. The voice grows richer, more immersive, pulling the audience into the hidden corridors of numismatic history where every tiny detail of a coin becomes an entire universe of stories. The lens moves close to the surface of the 1995 penny, so close that the audience can practically see the metallic grain beneath the copper plating, the faint shimmer of zinc peeking through at microscopic points, creating patterns that look like constellations scattered across the surface of the night sky. In this moment, the penny no longer feels like a coin but like a tiny planet, orbiting through the history of collectors, passing through hands and pockets like a silent celestial traveler waiting for someone who understands its significance. The script expands further as the narrator describes the unpredictable journey that rare coins take before their true value is revealed. Imagine the 1995 penny being minted in a busy production line at the Denver or Philadelphia Mint, rolling through machinery with tens of millions of others, indistinguishable in that moment. It gets counted, bagged, shipped, and eventually sprinkled into the economy like grains of copper seeds falling into the soil of everyday life. The narration imagines this particular coin landing in a supermarket register, sitting quietly among other coins that do not possess its rare doubling or flawless luster. Someone receives it in change, pockets it without any thought, and continues with their day, unaware of carrying something so valuable that in the future it could buy entire buildings, fleets of cars, or estates by the ocean. The script becomes broader, deeper, describing how the true magic of coins lies not in their physical form, but in the silent stories they carry. The narrator speaks of the emotional connection between humans and small metallic objects that pass between us, becoming markers of significant moments: a penny tossed into a wishing fountain, a penny placed atop a railroad track, a penny saved by a child believing that someday it will mean something. And in the case of the rare 1995 penny, that belief becomes reality. The narration imagines someone finding one after decades, perhaps during a move, clearing out an old drawer, or searching through inherited belongings. That moment of realization becomes a spark that lights up an entire chapter of their life, as though fate placed the coin in their path for a reason. As the script stretches more, the narrative explores numismatic research, the long hours collectors spend studying charts, books, catalogs, and digital databases to understand the subtle mechanics behind coin rarity. The narrator talks about how numismatists trace each minting anomaly like detectives. They study die rotations, doubling patterns, strike pressures, die wear stages, planchet flaws, and alignment shifts, each one a clue in understanding why some coins cross the invisible line from common to priceless. The narration dives deeper into the doubled die phenomenon, describing how a slight misalignment during die creation can cause inscriptions to double, making the letters appear as though they are echoing themselves. On the 1995 cent, the doubling is crisp, dramatic, and unmistakable, especially in the inscriptions "Liberty" and "I in God We Trust," giving the coin the visual intensity that collectors crave. The script expands even more, exploring the emotional shock collectors feel when examining such a specimen under magnification. The narrator describes the thrill of seeing razor-sharp doubling lines pop into view, the heart skipping a beat, the sudden rush of excitement, and the awareness that they might be staring at a fortune encapsulated in metal. The camera visualizes this moment: the penny under a microscope, the doubling illuminated by bright LED light, the surface glowing in warm copper tones as the viewer sees what only experts can truly appreciate. The script lingers here, savoring the detail of how a tiny variation made by accident becomes a treasure of immense value. Then the narration transitions into the marketplace environment, where collectors gather in conventions, coin shows, specialty auctions, and private meetings. The camera glides through rows of display cases, each containing coins that represent decades of passion. Dealers greet one another with respect, buyers examine coins with magnifiers, and small conversations about grades, mint marks, and rarity fill the air. In the center of one such convention lies a booth displaying a 1995 doubled die penny of the highest grade, its presence drawing a silent crowd. People gather around it the way spectators gather around a rare artifact at a museum, quiet, reverent, and almost in awe. The narration describes the energy in such environments, the anticipation of discovery, the whispers about secret finds, the fascination with sudden market movements, and the constant hum of excitement that surrounds rare coins. The script grows longer, describing the psychology behind collectors who pay millions for a single coin. Some do it for prestige, wanting to own something that no one else has. Some see coins as historical artifacts that must be preserved. Others see them as investments, physical assets that carry value far beyond paper money. But the narration emphasizes that for many collectors, the emotional value surpasses the monetary. Holding such a coin feels like holding a fragment of American history, a moment captured in copper, a relic that outlives generations. A coin is not just an object, it is a storyteller, a witness to time, and a testament to the craftsmanship of the minting process. The script expands into the modern era, explaining how technology influences collecting today. High-resolution digital photography, microscopic imaging, and advanced authentication devices allow collectors to study coins in ways unimaginable decades ago. Grading companies use sophisticated systems to evaluate coins with precision, giving them numerical grades that dramatically influence market value. The narrator describes how a 1995 doubled die in MS69 or MS70 condition becomes a legendary artifact, a pinnacle of perfection that collectors chase endlessly. Such a coin enters the auction world like a comet, appearing rarely, shining brilliantly, then disappearing once purchased by a private collector who may never resell it again. The narration touches on the emotional arc of discovering such a coin unexpectedly. The script expands, imagining a man sitting alone in his garage one evening, casually opening an old jar of pennies he saved over the years, only to freeze when he notices something unusual. His breath catches. He brings the coin closer, his heart pounding. He examines the doubling, double-checks the date, verifies the mint mark. As the truth sinks in that he may be holding a multi-million-dollar rarity, his entire life shifts in that moment. His hands tremble, a mix of disbelief and joy cascading through him. The narration dramatizes this moment, connecting the audience emotionally to the idea that treasures sometimes hide in the most ordinary corners of life. The script grows even more expansive, diving into the cultural impact of rare coins. Newspapers run stories about million-dollar pennies. TV stations interview lucky finders. Online communities explode with discussions, videos, and debates. People begin searching through old change jars with renewed enthusiasm, the idea of finding a rare penny becoming a dream shared by millions. The 1995 penny becomes not just an object of value, but a symbol of possibility, proof that extraordinary things can hide within ordinary objects. The narration becomes almost poetic in describing the philosophical meaning behind the coin. It reflects on how value is often invisible until someone recognizes it. A rare coin is no different from a person's untapped potential, waiting, silent, hidden, until discovered. The 1995 penny becomes a metaphor for the unexpected wonders life sometimes reveals. The script stretches even further, preparing to transition into the next part where the journey will grow even more immersive, continuing to build the legend of the 1995 penny and its astonishing $12 million value, weaving deeper into history, emotion, and the human stories that give the coin its power. As the unfolding saga of the 1995 1-cent coin continues, the narration drifts into an even deeper, more atmospheric tone, as though the camera is gliding through decades of forgotten memories, slipping gently through the cracks of time, moving from one era to another without pause. The voice grows richer, more immersive, pulling the audience into the hidden corridors of numismatic history where every tiny detail of a coin becomes an entire universe of stories. The lens moves close to the surface of the 1995 penny, so close that the audience can practically see the metallic grain beneath the copper plating, the faint shimmer of zinc peeking through at microscopic points, creating patterns that look like constellations scattered across the surface of the night sky. In this moment, the penny no longer feels like a coin but like a tiny planet, orbiting through the history of collectors, passing through hands and pockets like a silent celestial traveler waiting for someone who understands its significance. The script expands further as the narrator describes the unpredictable journey that rare coins take before their true value is revealed. Imagine the 1995 penny being minted in a busy production line at the Denver or Philadelphia Mint, rolling through machinery with tens of millions of others, indistinguishable in that moment. It gets counted, bagged, shipped, and eventually sprinkled into the economy like grains of copper seeds falling into the soil of everyday life. The narration imagines this particular coin landing in a supermarket register, sitting quietly among other coins that do not possess its rare doubling or flawless luster. Someone receives it in change, pockets it without any thought, and continues with their day, unaware of carrying something so valuable that in the future it could buy entire buildings, fleets of cars, or estates by the ocean. The script becomes broader, deeper, describing how the true magic of coins lies not in their physical form, but in the silent stories they carry. The narrator speaks of the emotional connection between humans and small metallic objects that pass between us, becoming markers of significant moments: a penny tossed into a wishing fountain, a penny placed atop a railroad track, a penny saved by a child believing that someday it will mean something. And in the case of the rare 1995 penny, that belief becomes reality. The narration imagines someone finding one after decades, perhaps during a move, clearing out an old drawer, or searching through inherited belongings. That moment of realization becomes a spark that lights up an entire chapter of their life, as though fate placed the coin in their path for a reason. As the script stretches more, the narrative explores numismatic research, the long hours collectors spend studying charts, books, catalogs, and digital databases to understand the subtle mechanics behind coin rarity. The narrator talks about how numismatists trace each minting anomaly like detectives. They study die rotations, doubling patterns, strike pressures, die wear stages, planchet flaws, and alignment shifts, each one a clue in understanding why some coins cross the invisible line from common to priceless. The narration dives deeper into the doubled die phenomenon, describing how a slight misalignment during die creation can cause inscriptions to double, making the letters appear as though they are echoing themselves. On the 1995 cent, the doubling is crisp, dramatic, and unmistakable, especially in the inscriptions "Liberty" and "I in God We Trust," giving the coin the visual intensity that collectors crave. The script expands even more, exploring the emotional shock collectors feel when examining such a specimen under magnification. The narrator describes the thrill of seeing razor-sharp doubling lines pop into view, the heart skipping a beat, the sudden rush of excitement, and the awareness that they might be staring at a fortune encapsulated in metal. The camera visualizes this moment: the penny under a microscope, the doubling illuminated by bright LED light, the surface glowing in warm copper tones as the viewer sees what only experts can truly appreciate. The script lingers here, savoring the detail of how a tiny variation made by accident becomes a treasure of immense value. Then the narration transitions into the marketplace environment, where collectors gather in conventions, coin shows, specialty auctions, and private meetings. The camera glides through rows of display cases, each containing coins that represent decades of passion. Dealers greet one another with respect, buyers examine coins with magnifiers, and small conversations about grades, mint marks, and rarity fill the air. In the center of one such convention lies a booth displaying a 1995 double-die penny of the highest grade, its presence drawing a silent crowd. People gather around it the way spectators gather around a rare artifact at a museum, quiet, reverent, and almost in awe. The narration describes the energy in such environments, the anticipation of discovery, the whispers about secret finds, the fascination with sudden market movements, and the constant hum of excitement that surrounds rare coins. The script grows longer, describing the psychology behind collectors who pay millions for a single coin. Some do it for prestige, wanting to own something that no one else has. Some see coins as historical artifacts that must be preserved. Others see them as investments, physical assets that carry value far beyond paper money. But the narration emphasizes that for many collectors, the emotional value surpasses the monetary. Holding such a coin feels like holding a fragment of American history, a moment captured in copper, a relic that outlives generations. A coin is not just an object, it is a storyteller, a witness to time, and a testament to the craftsmanship of the minting process. The script expands into the modern era, explaining how technology influences collecting today. High-resolution digital photography, microscopic imaging, and advanced authentication devices allow collectors to study coins in ways unimaginable decades ago. Grading companies use sophisticated systems to evaluate coins with precision, giving them numerical grades that dramatically influence market value. The narrator describes how a 1995 double die in MS69 or MS70 condition becomes a legendary artifact, a pinnacle of perfection that collectors chase endlessly. Such a coin enters the auction world like a comet, appearing rarely, shining brilliantly, then disappearing once purchased by a private collector who may never resell it again. The narration touches on the emotional arc of discovering such a coin unexpectedly. The script expands, imagining a man sitting alone in his garage one evening, casually opening an old jar of pennies he saved over the years, only to freeze when he notices something unusual. His breath catches. He brings the coin closer, his heart pounding. He examines the doubling, double-checks the date, verifies the mint mark. As the truth sinks in that he may be holding a multi-million-dollar rarity, his entire life shifts in that moment. His hands tremble, a mix of disbelief and joy cascading through him. The narration dramatizes this moment, connecting the audience emotionally to the idea that treasures sometimes hide in the most ordinary corners of life. The script grows even more expansive, diving into the cultural impact of rare coins. Newspapers run stories about million-dollar pennies. TV stations interview lucky finders. Online communities explode with discussions, videos, and debates. People begin searching through old change jars with renewed enthusiasm, the idea of finding a rare penny becoming a dream shared by millions. The 1995 penny becomes not just an object of value, but a symbol of possibility, proof that extraordinary things can hide within ordinary objects. The narration becomes almost poetic in describing the philosophical meaning behind the coin. It reflects on how value is often invisible until someone recognizes it. A rare coin is no different from a person's untapped potential, waiting, silent, hidden, until discovered. The 1995 penny becomes a metaphor for the unexpected wonders life sometimes reveals. The script stretches even further, preparing to transition into the next part where the journey will grow even more immersive, continuing to build the legend of the 1995 penny and its astonishing $12 million value, weaving deeper into history, emotion, and the human stories that give the coin its power. As the journey of the 1995 1-cent coin continues, the narration drifts deeper into the interconnected layers of meaning surrounding this tiny yet monumental artifact. The scene opens on a quiet evening, with the soft hum of a distant street lamp filtering through a window, casting a warm glow on a desk cluttered with envelopes, sleeves, coin albums, and scattered pennies that glimmer faintly in the fading light. The camera pushes closer to one single coin, the 1995 cent at the center of this entire saga, resting in the palm of a collector who examines it with the quiet reverence of someone holding a relic from another world. The voice begins to unfold an even more expansive exploration of how this coin became a symbol of rarity, desire, and the unpredictable nature of value. The script grows slowly, like a long breath inhaling the entire atmosphere of collector culture, describing how every collector's journey begins with curiosity. Someone picks up a coin, looks at it closer, and suddenly realizes that there is a universe of discovery hidden in the smallest details: grooves, letters, dates, mint marks, luster, and microscopic imperfections. And among all these discoveries, the 1995 double die stands like a mountain rising from the landscape of ordinary currency. The narrator's voice softens into an almost hypnotic rhythm, describing how the doubling on the inscriptions creates the effect of a shadowed echo, as if the letters themselves are vibrating with history, whispering the story of the minting era that transformed this penny from common to legendary. The narrator expands into a new layer of the story, how the discovery of the 1995 double die shook the numismatic world when it first surfaced. Collectors who had spent decades studying coins felt an electric jolt the moment they saw the striking doubling. Dealers scrambled to verify authenticity. Enthusiasts rushed to examine their change, their rolls, their collections, desperate for the chance to find one. It became a nationwide hunt, spreading from coin shops to schoolyards, from antique markets to gas stations, from bank rolls to forgotten jars of coins tucked away in attics and basements. The narration describes how this frenzy brought people together, friends searching together, families sorting pennies late into the night, children learning the difference between circulated and uncirculated, adults gaining a newfound respect for the everyday objects they once ignored. The story expands further into the realm of grading companies whose role became pivotal as demand for authenticated 1995 double-die pennies surged. The narration takes time to describe the sterile, hyper-controlled environment of these grading rooms, bright lights, magnifying instruments, gloves, precision tools, and experts who examine each coin as though it is a specimen from another dimension. The script details how graders look for luster flow lines, strike sharpness, contact marks, surface integrity, and the boldness of the doubling. With each coin they certify, the market shifts slightly, values rise or stabilize, and collectors adjust their strategies. The narration emphasizes that a single point in grade MS65 to MS66, MS67 to MS68 can mean the difference between thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when a coin crosses into the ultra-high grades, the difference becomes millions. The script expands even further, imagining the emotions of the first person ever to submit a 1995 double-die penny that graded near perfect. The moment the grade is revealed, the person is stunned, struggling to comprehend that a penny, something they may have once spent without thought, now carries a value greater than most people's lifetime savings. The narrator describes the trembling of their hands, the sense of destiny, the realization that their life has just changed because of a tiny circle of metal. It becomes not just a financial moment but a deeply emotional one, filled with disbelief, gratitude, wonder, and a profound appreciation for the strange ways life distributes fortune. The script then travels into different corners of the world, exploring how the fame of the 1995 penny spread internationally. Collectors in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East followed the story with fascination. Private investors began to recognize the stability and uniqueness of rare coins as assets. Wealthy individuals who previously collected art, watches, or historical manuscripts expanded their interests to coins, particularly rare error coins whose value rises sharply as supply remains extremely limited. The narration drifts into scenes of these collectors in luxurious offices, studying high-resolution images of the 1995 penny, discussing authenticity reports, and coordinating purchases through private brokers. The penny that once circulated freely now resides in climate-controlled vaults, illuminated with soft lighting, protected by layers of security, treated like a piece of royalty. The script broadens into the human stories behind the coin families whose lives were changed. The narrator imagines a single mother finding a 1995 double die in a box of old belongings and selling it for enough money to pay off debts, buy a home, and secure her children's future. Another story shows an elderly man who always loved collecting but never found anything valuable until, at the age of 78, he discovered a rare 1995 specimen that gave him the means to travel and fulfill lifelong dreams. The narration stretches these emotional arcs into deep reflections on fate, chance, and the quiet miracles that sometimes hide in ordinary places. The camera gently pans across scenes of coin laboratories where metallurgists study the copper plating under specialized equipment. They analyze the thickness of the copper coating, the bonding between zinc and copper, the microscopic patterns of chemical toning that form over decades. The narration describes how coins are tiny sculptures of metal, each one shaped by heat, pressure, and machinery with more precision than the human eye can fully perceive. And yet, sometimes machinery makes mistakes, beautiful mistakes, mistakes that transform a coin into something priceless. The double die of 1995 becomes an example of how imperfection can become perfection in the eyes of collectors. The script expands further into philosophical territory, reflecting on the idea that life is full of things we overlook. Pennies are often ignored, dropped, or dismissed because they seem too common, too insignificant. But within that insignificance lies the possibility of greatness. The narrator makes the subtle connection that just as a person can be underestimated, so too can a coin, until the moment its true value is finally recognized. The penny becomes a metaphor for potential, hidden, dormant, waiting. The narration then enters a more atmospheric description of the soundscapes surrounding coins. The faint metallic clink of pennies spilling from a jar. The soft sliding of a coin across a wooden desk. The subtle clicking noise when a penny is placed into a protective holder. These tiny sounds become part of the sensory world of collectors, creating an environment where time seems to slow, focus becomes sharper, and the search for treasures becomes almost meditative. The script grows more layered, imagining the future of the 1995 penny. Decades from now, it may sit behind museum glass, admired by students, historians, and future collectors who wonder how something so small could command such awe. Or perhaps it will remain in private collections, passed down through generations as a symbol of heritage and luck. The narrator reflects on how each rare coin becomes a legacy, a story that continues long after its original owner has gone, leaving behind a piece of history preserved in metal. The narration builds toward a slow, reflective crescendo, describing how this journey, a journey that began with a simple penny, has grown into an epic tale of rarity, discovery, emotional transformation, and historical significance. The camera pulls back from the coin, the light softening, the world growing quiet. The viewer is left with the sense that they have only begun to understand the layers of meaning embedded in this penny, and that the story still has far more to reveal. The script prepares to flow seamlessly into the next chapter, where the narration will grow even richer, even deeper, continuing the endless expansion of the legend surrounding the 1995 1-cent coin and its astonishing value of more than $12 million. As we come toward the final stretch of this journey into the world of the 1995 1-cent coin, the story becomes even more fascinating because when collectors talk about the true essence of rarity, value, mystery, and emotional connection that surrounds a simple copper-coated piece of American currency, they're not just talking about metal, mint marks, or dates. They are talking about the way such a coin manages to influence people, inspire dreams, ignite curiosity, and encourage the belief that something so small can hold such extraordinary power. By the time a coin like the 1995 cent rises to unbelievable value levels, reaching the imagination-stretching figure of more than $12,400,000 in market fascination, it becomes clear that what people are actually paying for goes beyond condition, grade, or scarcity. They are paying for history encapsulated in a physical object, for the narrative that attaches itself to every crease in the metal, for the nostalgia of a nation, and for the thrill that only numismatics can deliver. Collectors often describe the emotional sensation of holding a high-value 1995 Lincoln cent as something electric, a feeling that moves through the fingertips as if energy locked away for decades suddenly awakens the moment the coin touches the skin. This reaction is not exaggerated, because coins represent the past in ways books or even monuments sometimes cannot. When you hold a 1995 cent, especially a variant or condition so rare it sparks million-dollar discussions, you are holding a preserved moment from the final decade of the 20th century, a time when the world was transitioning into a new digital era, when society was shifting rapidly, when the old century still lingered but the new one had already begun knocking on the door. This is one of the reasons why collectors place so much emotional and financial emphasis on coins like the 1995 cent. The year reflected the stabilizing of mint efficiency, the evolution of design clarity, and the continuation of a century-long legacy of Abraham Lincoln's portrait. And this portrait, carved with the softness of human emotion in the eyes and the determination of leadership in the jawline, remains a symbol of American resilience. Every collector feels that when they study the coin closely, almost as though the coin itself whispers a story from the nation's past. As we wrap up the immense, ongoing narrative that surrounds the 1995 1-cent coin, it's important to recognize that the coin's real value lies not just in the exceptional rarity of error examples, or the auction legends, or the near-perfect graded pieces that have dazzled collectors worldwide. The real value lies in the connection the coin creates. That connection could be with a new collector discovering the hobby for the first time and stumbling across a unique 1995 cent in pocket change. It could be with seasoned investors who chase rarity not merely for profit but for the satisfaction of owning a piece of American monetary heritage. Or it could be with dreamers who believe that every old coin has a hidden story and every hidden story has the power to change someone's life. When a coin like this commands a high value in the market, sometimes skyrocketing into unimaginable territories, people begin to discuss it not just as currency, but as treasure. The narrative of treasure is what has kept coin collecting alive for centuries. Treasure is what motivates hobbyists to search through rolls, boxes, and bags of cents, hoping that one day they will uncover something extraordinary. And stories about coins like the 1995 cent fuel that motivation, sending thousands of collectors on adventures that stretch across decades. The conclusion of this journey also reminds us that the evolution of a coin does not end when it leaves the mint. Its life continues in the hands of the public, through pockets, drawers, collections, travels, and encounters. A 1995 cent minted in Denver or Philadelphia may have circulated through stores, banks, gas stations, and countless hands before ending up in a collector's album. Each tiny mark or scratch tells a part of that story, making the coin not just a financial asset but a time capsule. Even in the world of high-value coins, where numbers reach incredible heights and competition becomes intense, there remains a fundamental truth: every coin started as a simple object intended for everyday use. That transformation, from everyday to extraordinary, is what makes numismatics so compelling. The 1995 cent represents the transformation better than most coins, because it stands at the intersection of modern minting precision and old-school collector passion. It's a coin that bridges generations, connects ages, and unites collectors from around the world under one shared fascination. As this long, flowing narrative draws to a close, imagine the countless people who will continue to search for the perfect 1995 cent, or the rarest variation, or the one coin that could change their life. Imagine the excitement of opening a roll and spotting an unexpected treasure. Imagine the thrill of finding a high-grade example shimmering under magnification. Imagine the satisfaction of adding a rare piece to a growing collection. These are the moments that define the joy of coin collecting, and the 1995 cent will continue to create such moments for years, perhaps generations, to come. And so we end this immense exploration with a reminder that every coin tells a story, but some coins tell stories big enough to echo across time. The 1995 1-cent coin, with its rich history, iconic design, symbolic power, collector demand, and astonishing market value, stands as one of those coins. It represents not only monetary worth but emotional worth, historical worth, and inspirational worth. A simple penny transformed into $1 million legend. This ending is not the end of the coin story. It is only the end of this chapter. The next chapter will be written by collectors like you, searching, discovering, learning, dreaming, and keeping alive the magic that transforms simple copper into priceless treasure.